All right, get ready, everybody, because we are about to take a deep dive into the world of Ethereum. And specifically, we're going to be looking at, could a short squeeze send its price skyrocketing back up to $3,000, maybe even higher? We've got a whole stack of really interesting articles right here from Bitcoinist.com. So let's dive in and see what they have to say.
Yeah, you know what's really caught my eye in these articles is the talk about these CME gaps. So basically, these are price gaps that are showing up in the Ethereum futures market, and specifically on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Okay, I definitely heard that term CME gaps thrown around, but to be honest with you, it's still a little bit fuzzy for me. So can we break that down a little bit? Like, what is a CME gap in plain English, and why should our listener even care?
Sure, so imagine this. Ethereum futures, they close for the weekend on Friday, right? Then over the weekend, some big news drops. Boom. When the market reopens on Monday, the prices jumped way up, leaving this gap between Friday's close and Monday's open. That's our CME gap. And the really interesting thing is historically, Ethereum has this kind of strange habit of revisiting those gap levels, almost like it's drawn back to them. You remember back in July 2024 when ETH had that huge gap down to $1,800? Yeah, it took a few weeks, but sure enough, it went back and filled that gap.
So it's not just some random thing, like a quirk of the market. There's a pattern here. And why are we even talking about this now?
Well, over the past couple of weeks, Ethereum has taken a pretty big hit. I mean, we're talking it shed $70 billion from its market cap. And that drop, well, that created not one, but two CME gaps, one at $3,000 and another at $2,600.
Uh-huh. Now I see where you're going with this. So based on this pattern that you're talking about, there's at least a chance
Right.
that ETH could climb back up to fill those gaps. And this is where that whole short squeeze idea comes in, right?
Exactly. So picture this. You've got a bunch of traders, and they're betting against Ethereum, meaning that they're shorting it, they're expecting the price to fall, but then suddenly ETH surges upward, maybe because of those CME gaps acting like magnets, pulling the price up. And all those short sellers, they get caught in squeeze. They have to buy back ETH to cover their losses, which pushes the price up even further, like a coiled spring, just suddenly releasing.
Okay, so this whole idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy, is that really how things work in crypto? Because right now, sentiment around Ethereum is still pretty negative, wouldn't you say?
It definitely plays a role. One analyst, Ted, he actually thinks that all this bearish sentiment could actually fuel the short squeeze. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but think about it. If everyone's expecting the price to drop, even a small positive spark could trigger this huge buying frenzy, catching those short sellers completely off guard.
So basically, fear turns into FOMO, and suddenly everybody's piling in, driving that price up. But we need more than just sentiment and historical patterns, right? I mean, what are some actual signals in the market that are supporting this short squeeze theory? I'm sure our listeners are wondering the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's take a look at Ethereum's Relative Strength Index, or RSI for short. It's basically a momentum gauge that tells us if an asset is overbought or oversold. And right now, ETH's RSI is sitting at 32, flashing a big oversold signal. This is the same zone it hit back in November 2024, right before that massive rally.
Okay, so the RSI is looking pretty interesting. Are there any other indicators that are kind of backing up this potential for a rally?
There are, actually. We're also seeing this bullish divergence on the ETH chart. So basically what that means is the price is trying to go down, but its energy is actually going up, which often means that a reversal is coming.
Okay, so let me just recap here for a second. We've got this potential short squeeze scenario. We've got these CME caps that could be acting like price magnets, pulling the price up. We've got a key RSI level that's signaling that ETH is oversold. And we've got a bullish divergence on the charts. You're making this sound pretty convincing. So what's your take on all of this? How likely do you think it is that we'll actually see Ethereum blast off towards $3,000?
Well, hold on, not so fast. While these technical indicators are definitely painting a bullish picture, remember the market is a wild beast. It's driven by both logic and emotion. And right now, the vibes around Ethereum, they're still pretty negative.
Yeah, that's true. The article even mentioned that even with all these positive signs, Ethereum is only trading at $2,221, up just a tiny 1.4% in the past 24 hours. So not exactly setting the world on fire, is it?
Yeah.
So how do you see this tug of war between sentiment and all these signals playing out?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Sentiment in the crypto world, it can shift on a dime, you know?
Right.
One positive news story, one influential tweet can completely flip the script and trigger a whole wave of buying. But the opposite is also true. Fear can spread like wildfire, leading to these just panicked sell-offs.
So even with all those technical signs pointing towards a potential rally, fear could still hold Ethereum back. But let's just say for a minute that the data wins out. Those short sellers get squeezed, and ETH does start climbing. Would it just rocket straight up to $3,000?
I wouldn't bet on a straight shot. There's a good chance we'd see some consolidation.
After that first CME gap at $2,600 gets filled, think about it like this. Imagine you're climbing Mount Everest. You wouldn't sprint to the top without stopping to catch your breath, right? Same thing with a big price move. It needs to consolidate, kind of gather strength before it makes another run.
Okay, so consolidation. But wouldn't that make some traders nervous and want to sell, thinking they've kind of missed the boat? Absolutely, that consolidation period, where the price might fluctuate between, say, $2,500 and $2,800. That becomes a crucial decision point for traders. Do they jump on board, or do they wait for more confirmation? And that's where understanding those technical indicators, like the RSI and the bullish divergence, that becomes incredibly valuable.
It's like having a compass in the middle of a dense forest. It might not tell you exactly where to go, but it can definitely give you a sense of direction. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got this possibility of a short squeeze. We've got CME gaps potentially acting as price magnets. We've got technical indicators giving us some bullish signals. But we've also got this cloud of negative sentiment hanging over ETH. Before we move on, is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind about this potential short squeeze?
You know, it's important to remember that Ethereum doesn't exist in a vacuum. What happens with ETH can ripple out and affect the entire crypto market.
Yeah, you know, it's really easy to get caught up in the excitement of this potential price surge, but you're right, Ethereum is definitely part of a much bigger ecosystem. So how could a short squeeze in ETH impact the crypto market as a whole?
Well, think of it like a chain reaction, right? If Ethereum experiences this significant price jump, it could just inject, like a surge of confidence into the entire crypto market.
Yeah.
That could attract new investors, potentially drive up demand for other digital assets, too. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
Yeah, okay, I get the rising tide part. But isn't the reverse also true? What if this whole short squeeze thing just fizzles out? Could that actually drag down the rest of the market?
Yeah, that's the flip side of the coin, for sure. If Ethereum stumbles, it could send this ripple of fear through the market. And remember, psychology plays a huge role in crypto. Sentiment can be contagious. And uncertainty about ETH, that could easily spill over into other cryptocurrencies.
So basically, a potential Ethereum short squeeze is a bit of a double-edged sword. Its success could boost the entire market. But if it fails, it could also spark this wider correction.
Exactly. But let's just stick with the positive scenario for a moment. Let's say this short squeeze does happen and Ethereum's price starts climbing. It could signal a shift in momentum for the whole crypto world. We might even see a resurgence of the altcoin season, where investors are flocking to smaller cryptocurrencies, hoping to ride that wave of ETH's success.
Oh, altcoin season. Yeah, that takes me back. But wouldn't Bitcoin still be king? It's the OG crypto, after all.
Bitcoin will always have that special place, no doubt. But we've seen periods where altcoins have actually outperformed Bitcoin. It's like this rotation of capital. Investors ride the Bitcoin wave. Then they start looking for the next big thing. And that often leads them to altcoins.
So picture this. Ethereum leading the charge.
Yeah.
Bunch of altcoins following suit, and Bitcoin kind of just taking a breather in the background.
It's definitely a possibility. You know, the crypto market, it's all about cycles. Periods of Bitcoin dominance followed by these altcoin seasons, that ebb and flow is what makes this market so dynamic and unpredictable.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. A potential Ethereum short squeeze could be the spark that actually ignites the next altcoin season, leading to this market-wide surge in prices. But let's just flip the script for a second here. What if things go south? What happens if this short squeeze doesn't actually materialize?
Well, if the short squeeze fizzles, or if Ethereum runs into some unexpected roadblocks, we could see this wave of selling pressure, not just for ETH, but for the broader market as well. Think of it like a domino effect. One piece falls and the rest could follow.
Yeah, so instead of a rising tide, we could end up with this market-wide dip. Not exactly the outcome that anybody's hoping for.
Yeah, it's not a happy thought. But it's important to be aware of the risks, as well as the potential rewards when it comes to crypto. I mean, this market is known for its volatility, and things can change in a heartbeat.
All right, that's a good reality check.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how an Ethereum short squeeze could affect the overall crypto landscape. But let's bring it back to our listener for a second. What does all of this mean for somebody who might be thinking about investing in ETH or who already owns some? What should they be watching for in the coming days and weeks?
First and foremost, I always advise caution and careful consideration before making any investment decisions. Do your research, understand the risks, and never invest more than you can comfortably afford to lose. Crypto is not for the faint of heart.
Solid advice. Okay, so assuming that our listener has done their homework and they're ready to dive in, what are some key things to watch for with Ethereum?
First, keep a close eye on those technical indicators that we discussed earlier, the RSI, the bullish divergence, and those CME gaps. If Ethereum starts moving towards those gaps and those technical signals remain strong, it could indicate a real shift in momentum.
Got it. Technical analysis is key. What else?
Pay attention to sentiment. What are people saying about Ethereum on social media, news articles, online forums? Is the overall tone positive or negative? Remember, sentiment can have a huge influence on price, so it's crucial to gauge the mood of the market.
Right, so even if the charts look bullish, if everybody's feeling doom and gloom, that could be a warning sign. Okay, technicals and sentiment, check and check. Anything else?
Don't forget about news and developments. Is the Ethereum network making progress on its technological roadmap? Are there any major partnerships or announcements on the horizon? Positive news flow can be a really powerful catalyst for price growth, so it's essential to stay informed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about charts and hype, it's about the fundamentals, the underlying technology, and what's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah.
So our listeners got their technical analysis hat on, they're checking the sentiment barometer, and they're keeping their finger on the pulse of Ethereum news. So what's the bottom line for you? What are you personally watching for to see if this short squeeze is the real deal or just a fleeting fantasy?
For me, it all boils down to this confluence of factors. We need to see Ethereum break above those key resistance levels with strong trading volume and positive technical indicators. And that needs to be paired with improving sentiment and positive news flow. If all those pieces fall into place, then we could be on the verge of something truly significant.
It's like all the stars are aligning for Ethereum. But you mentioned caution earlier, and I think that's worth repeating. The crypto market is notoriously unpredictable. Things can change drastically, very quickly.
Absolutely. So while the potential for a short squeeze is definitely exciting, it's important to stay grounded, manage your risk, and be prepared for any outcome.
Words of wisdom. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Exploring the potential for an Ethereum short squeeze, digging into technical indicators and market sentiment, and even considering the broader implications for the crypto world. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought-provoking question. So we've talked a lot about how a potential ETH short squeeze could impact the crypto market as a whole. But what if this is actually a sign of something even bigger happening, like in the financial world in general? Could a surge in Ethereum's price be kind of like a canary in the coal mine? Hinting at maybe broader economic shifts or even changes in how investors are thinking.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I mean, it goes way beyond just the usual crypto chatter, right? It's important to remember that Ethereum isn't just a digital currency. It's this whole platform for decentralized applications, smart contracts, these new financial systems. If ETH starts to really take off, it might mean that traditional investors are starting to wake up to the potential of all these technologies.
So it's not just about speculation anymore or just making a quick buck. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about finance and tech.
Exactly. We might be seeing the early stages of a paradigm shift, where these decentralized systems actually start to challenge the established financial order. And Ethereum, with its robust ecosystem and growing adoption, it's right there at the forefront.
Wow, that is a pretty mind-blowing concept. So a surge in ETH could actually be a sign that the world is starting to embrace the power of blockchain technology and decentralized finance. It's like a sneak peek into the future of money.
It's definitely a possibility worth considering. Of course, it's still really early days.
Yeah.
And the crypto space definitely has its hurdles to overcome, right? Regulation, scalability, mainstream adoption, those are all big challenges that still need to be addressed.
Yeah, you're right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows out there. But it's pretty exciting to think that a possible short squeeze in Ethereum could be part of something much bigger, a real shift in those tectonic plates of finance and technology.
Absolutely, and that's what makes the crypto world so captivating. It's constantly evolving, full of surprises and opportunities. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're watching the birth of a whole new financial era right before our eyes.
Well, you've definitely got me thinking. This has been an incredible deep dive. We explored the possibility of an Ethereum short squeeze. We analyzed the technical signs and the market sentiment. And we even pondered those big implications for the future of finance.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure diving into these insights with you and with our listener, of course. Hopefully they're feeling really informed and ready to navigate the exciting and sometimes turbulent waters of the crypto market.
Absolutely. And remember, everybody, this is just the beginning. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more opportunities to discover in this amazing world of crypto. So stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned for our next deep dive. We'll be tackling another fascinating topic from the forefront of technology and innovation. Until then, happy investing, everyone.